Hey guys, Space Panther here. So today I wanted to talk to you about something that has been in the news a lot lately, which is the topic of vaccines. The measles outbreak in California has gotten people very excited, very emotional about the topic of vaccines. And one thing I've really been noticing is that there's a lot of hate going around, a lot of division. And on one side, you have people who are pro-vaccine, right? They believe that vaccines are the greatest medical invention in human history. We have saved thousands of lives. Vaccines have saved the world. We need more vaccines. It's the only way to have a healthy population is to vaccinate, keep vaccinating. On the other side, you have a group of people who is a bit more skeptical, who maybe doesn't necessarily want to vaccinate themselves or their children. This crowd is called the anti-vaxxers. So you have the pro-vaccination and anti-vaccination. But one thing that's interesting is that when you really talk to people who are considered anti-vaxxers, most of them are not anti-vaccine. In fact, most of them just want more information. They're concerned about vaccine safety, and rightly so. There is a lot to be concerned about. When you look at the ingredients in vaccines, okay, so what's in a vaccine? So you have the egg white base, and then you have either a live or dead virus or bacteria. This has to be cultured, so usually they use fetal bovine serum, so stem cells pretty much from a baby cow, cow fetus. It gives the nutrients it needs in addition to the egg whites to help culture the virus or bacteria. They add formaldehyde to help make it process. They add MSG. They add aluminum salt, which is supposed to help enhance the immune response of the body. They add antibiotics because extra bacteria can grow in there. They also add preservatives, sugars, and amino acids so that the sugars and amino acids are, again, to help culture it, and the preservatives just help keep it there. And the preservatives are really where we have the problem. For a long time, thimerosal was used as a preservative in all vaccines. Thimerosal is mercury. More specifically, it's ethyl mercury. Scientists and the government have argued that it's safe because unlike methyl mercury is the kind that accumulates in the environment. If it's found in seafood, that's what causes you harm in your body. Ethyl mercury, it's a different form of mercury, and they argue that this kind of mercury, it goes into the bloodstream and then it exits pretty immediately, so it doesn't accumulate in the body. So it's completely safe, there's no problems. Still, people are concerned about it to the point where they did remove thimerosal from childhood vaccines. It is, however, used in flu shots, and then I think some of the hepatitis vaccines, Gardasil. So thimerosal is still used as a preservative, and it was only recently taken out of childhood vaccines. When I was a kid, I definitely got thimerosal in my bloodstream in my vaccines. In thimerosal, mercury, this is really where one of the biggest concerns comes in, because mercury, it's a heavy metal. We know it's a neurotoxin. You know, the Romans would make their prisoners mine for cinnabar, cinnabar is just mercury sulfate, because within 3 years they would go crazy and die. So we know mercury is not a good thing to have in the human body. And people believe that this is where the autism link comes in, is mercury, because you're giving mercury to an infant, to a baby, and their bodies aren't developed, they can't handle it. I mean, a lot of people have experienced autism after giving their child the childhood vaccines. People who are pro-vaccine, they always like to quote the Andrew Wakefield study. In 1998, there was a researcher in England named Andrew Wakefield. He was working on a team, and they made the connection between the MMR vaccine and autism. They actually weren't even researching vaccines. They were actually researching pediatric gastroenterology, so digestive disorders in children. As they were doing this, they found a connection between digestive disorders and the MMR vaccine. They further found a connection with autism. He was later charged with an unethical behavior with how he dealt with the children. However, all the parents have spoken out on YouTube supporting him, in favor of him, saying what he did was not wrong. And actually his case, and I believe it was 2010, was exonerated by the high court. So actually it was all proven to be legit, and his partner got his license back. So I guess where I'm going with this is that people who are pro-vaccine, they were like, oh, autism, the autism connection's debunked because Andrew Wakefield was considered a fraud. But there's really so much more to that story, and I'll post some links below that he really wasn't doing fraudulent research, and he found a connection. But perhaps what's more important is that was in 1998. That was 17 years ago, and since then it hasn't gone away. If this autism-mercury connection was really just a fraudulent claims, do you think we would still be seeing it? Do you think that every year, every day, you'd have reports of parents who take their kids to get vaccinated, a day later, a week later, they develop autism-like symptoms? I don't think that we would continue to see this. It wouldn't continue to be an issue if it was not an issue. Also, dozens have been studies have been done since then that do show a connection between autism and mercury. It's not like this was the only study. It was the first study, and that's why people like to quote it. But since then, dozens of studies have been done. And actually, 74% of studies show a link between mercury and autism. 74%. And I'll provide you with those statistics in the links below. So there definitely is a very real connection there. And so you really can't blame parents for wanting to do more research, wanting to understand, not wanting to put their child, give their child unnecessary risks. Me personally, and a lot of people who are considered anti-vaxxers, it's really, do the costs outweigh the benefits? Something like the chickenpox vaccine. Chickenpox is fine. I got chickenpox. It's not, you get over it. You're sick and then you get over it. It's not worth the vaccination. There are some things, smallpox, for example, has a 30% fatality rate. Maybe you should vaccinate for smallpox. Measles sucks. Okay, the fatality rate in measles is 1 in 1,000, so that's 0.1% fatality rate. Is it worth injecting a baby with a bunch of heavy metals and toxic chemicals for a 0.1% fatality rate? I don't think so, especially considering that vaccines have their own fatality rate. There have been many cases of children, especially with the hepatitis B vaccine, dying from the vaccine, either from adverse reactions or because they get the disease from the vaccine. There's probably more reports of vaccine deaths than there are of measles deaths. So I'm not saying that we should abolish vaccines. I'm just saying that we need to do more research, and people who are always accused of being anti-vaxxers agree we need to do more research. And there's so much hate on each side. There's so much hate, but especially on people who are pro vaccines. They anti-vaxxers, you're responsible, you're going to cause an epidemic, your kids are going to die, get your kids away from here. I have a friend who didn't vaccinate her children, and people literally tell her kids are going to die. Like, what kind of world do you want to live in? You're giving a death wish to somebody's children because of their personal choices. And if you have so much faith in your vaccines, if people don't vaccinate, it doesn't affect you anyway. I know there's the argument for infants, people with compromised immune systems, but that's such a small percentage of the population, and really it's about freedom and about personal choice, and everyone should be able to do what they decide is best for their body, just like reproductive rights and birth control and abortion. It's your body, and you can decide what you want to do with it. But really the point, though, is not that vaccines are bad and should be abolished, but that we need to do more research. We need to really understand the effects of vaccines. And there was a study done, actually, the largest study ever conducted was done in Germany with 8,000 unvaccinated children and 8,000 vaccinated children. And what they found was that the vaccinated children had 5 times the rate of childhood illnesses, coughs, colds, the flu, 5 times more than those who had been unvaccinated. There was also a huge increase in dyslexia, ADD, autism, of course, digestive disorders, respiratory illnesses, allergies. All of these things were much dramatically higher in the children who had been vaccinated. And there was a similar study done in New Zealand that had similar results, similar findings. So it's not necessarily that anti-vaxxers are completely anti-vaccine. They just want more information, and I hope that this video sheds some light onto why. So really, I guess what I'm calling for is that for people to do their own research. With the internet, there's a lot of information out there. Read the studies. Don't read New York Times interpretation of the studies or CNN's. Go to the Lancet, read Dr. Andrew Wakefield's work, read the other studies that have been conducted, all the trials. Actually, read for yourself the actual information about vaccines, about the studies that have been done on them, and then make your own choices. And I think really we want the same thing. We both want a healthy world, and the only way we're going to get there is if we work together. So I guess that's just all I want is harmony on both sides, for people who are pro-vaccine to stop being so hateful and try to be understanding, and for all of us to work together to create a healthy world and make vaccines or something similar to vaccines. Sorry, my computer turned off. Okay, yeah, so that's it, I guess. Thank you for watching. Like I said, we need to harmonize. We need to work together. It's 2015. We don't have time to be divided on this issue. Okay, so stop the hate. Try to understand. Let's work together. Let's do more studies. Let's call for more transparency in research. And yeah, I'll post some links. Do your own research and have a beautiful day.